evening, I'm Alvin Yakatori.
And I'm Jefferson Steelflex.
Today, we'll be discussing with you the people of America, our recently passed situation in which people are beginning to call the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yes, Alvin. I believe there's been much confusion about the topic lately, and we're here to sum things up.
Less than 2 years ago, a man of the name of Fidel Castro came to power over the island of Cuba after launching a series of guerrilla war tactics against dictator Bautista.
Indeed, Alvin. And soon after his rise of power, Cuban and Soviet Union commercial relationships rose, leading President Eisenhower of our beautiful nation to boycott Cuba, severing all diplomatic relations between us and them, such as the United Fruit Company.
And here was the CEO of the United Fruit Company giving his opinion about the situation.
This crisis has negatively affected my business of the United Fruit Company by halting the amount of fruit exported from Cuba to the United States. If the United States wants to restore economic ties in Cuba, this crisis needs to end.
Directly after the recent election of President John F. Kennedy, he and the CIA drafted an invasion plan to overthrow Castro and his adversaries in what was later known as the Bay of Pigs for its dramatic failure.
And Alvin, I don't believe we're supposed to be speaking of secret CIA missions live on the air, but whatever, I guess it's in the past now. So if I'm not mistaken, this failure of a mission was what prompted Castro to ask Khrushchev for military support.
Absolutely, and soon enough there were Soviet nuclear missiles located on Cuba, right next to our own country. That's
right, and we discovered this after U.S. reconnaissance planes found camouflage missile silos on the island. Take a look. Here's my recent interview with a local from Miami, Florida regarding the situation. I'm down here in Miami with a local surfer. Sir, what effect is this Cuban Missile Crisis having on the people of Miami?
You know, I don't have any problem with it. I'm just chilling out here at the bay. I don't see any pigs anywhere. I don't know what everyone's talking about. No missiles are coming down to my beach, so, you know, I'm just gonna chill out here for the rest of the time, and it's all good.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy your day.
As soon as possible, President JFK warned you, the public, of the crisis on national television. Here's a recap.
Good evening, my fellow citizens. This government, as promised, has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military built up on the island of Cuba. Within the past weeks, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation of the imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere. Upon receiving this first preliminary hard information of this nature last Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., I directed that our surveillance be stepped up. And having now confirmed and complete our evaluation of the evidence and our decision on a course of action, this government feels obliged to report this new crisis in your fullest detail.
Wow, what a great guy. JFK's immediate response was to enforce a blockade of any military equipment being shipped to Cuba.
For a tense week, the US and the Soviets had a standoff, wondering who would strike first.
Many families became more than stressed about the situation as they thought about their children possibly becoming victims to nuclear warfare.
Oh yes, my family and I are terrified of the United States' current situation. I just hope this dangerous problem gets resolved before it affects my beautiful children. After all, this situation has been going on for a long periodically time.
This little hiccup with the Soviets has taught you, if you hear this obnoxious sound, that means we're all screwed.
All students have been trained to immediately duck under their desk if these nuclear sounds are to be heard because, you know, desks are really great at repelling radiation.
Of course. But finally, Khrushchev gave in and offered to remove all Soviet missiles out of Cuba as long as we don't invade Cuba.
Sounds good to me. We as well agreed to remove all of our own missiles out of Turkey to avoid further confrontations with the superpower.
So each of our missiles are away from each other, but we were already planning to take ours down.
Bum, bum, balloon, bum, 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 to the